Even though inflation has been tamed, the price hikes and shortage for many products continue due to a variety of reasons. What are the reasons for this supply chain crisis in the US? Let's see. A total of 82% of shoppers have struggled with items being out of stock at brick-and-mortar stores this year, an increase of 11 percentage points compared to last year. Supply chain disruptions are threatening customer loyalty and hurting businesses' bottom lines. Increased cost of food production and rising operational costs are the main reasons for empty shelves. Product shortages pose a greater threat to grocery stores, with 27% of shoppers questioning their loyalty to a grocer if out of stock became regular. Consumers are cutting back on spending due to increased costs, with 80% cutting spending on non-essential goods and two-thirds spending less on essential items. Buying power is not keeping pace with price increases, and supply chain disruptions will worsen the situation in the coming months. The U.S. trucking industry is in serious trouble, with many companies going out of business, causing job cuts and impacting shipping costs. The American economy and trade are heavily dependent on the trucking sector. Compared to airplanes or railroads, trucks transport about 75% of the nation's freight, and they bring in over $940 billion in income annually, according to the American Trucking Association. Tens of thousands of trucking companies have been ceasing operations since the fall of 2022, the majority of them individual operators with just one truck, and this has caused a downturn in the industry. Since 2022, manufacturing orders and ocean freight have decreased. Industry leaders highlighted slowing U.S. retail sales, a large amount of inventory, and inflation. Truck drivers may find it difficult to turn a profit if there is less demand for vehicles and less inventory being moved. 2022 was a severe year for food shortages, with products like eggs and infant formula particularly hard hit. Unfortunately, 2023 might see some food shortages of its own. Many food products like corn, bread, baby products, vegetable oil, canned pet food, and champagne are some of the products that should be stocked up before they vanish from the store shelves by the beginning of 2024. In 2021, when rapidly growing living costs first became a major issue, much of it was caused by stalled consumer demand that had developed after the COVID-19 pandemic-induced shutdown phase of the economy. The global economy encountered a lack of commodities as customers started to shop again, causing a supply-demand imbalance and driving up costs. According to Tom Hainlin, national investment strategist at U.S. Bank, higher inflation reflected a restricted supply of goods at the same time that there was a strong demand for many of those same goods. The primary causes of the rapid rise of inflation were energy and food goods. The problems were made worse by the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. The battle temporarily halted some shipments of food and agricultural products coming from both Russia and Ukraine. The harsh COVID-19 lockdown policies in China, which were in effect until late 2022, made it difficult for Chinese companies to make and ship goods. However, problems with the supply chain that affected a larger range of products also added to the situation. Some businesses had trouble meeting demand, locating the materials needed to make items, or locating enough labor to meet manufacturing demands. A shortage of truckers to transport freight across long distances and a backlog in some ports are only two of the mounting transportation issues. The worst of these difficulties have, for the most part, passed. Manufacturers now have better access to supplies, and most products are now easily accessible to consumers. Additionally, the economy has shifted from being based on the demand for goods to one that prioritizes services, such as travel and entertainment. What can investors learn from current patterns, and how well have supply chain problems been resolved? What is the root cause of this supply chain crisis? The start of the COVID-19 epidemic in early 2020 served as the impetus for the supply chain issue. To stop the virus from spreading, many businesses were compelled to temporarily close, except those judged to provide essential services. Emergency government measures also offered financial assistance to citizens and businesses to help them cope with the financial effects of the pandemic. These policies helped to strengthen household financial sheets. To adapt to the work-from-home culture, consumers who were unable to spend money on services and leisure pursuits like dining out, trips to health clubs, and vacation instead spent their discretionary funds on things like workout equipment, home improvement projects, and new residences. This sharp increase in demand for particular economic sectors surpassed supply. Due to business setbacks brought on by the pandemic, there was a shortage of popular commodities. Early on in this boom, supply chain problems emerged that exacerbated a supply-demand imbalance and raised prices. Early in 2021, accelerating inflation began to manifest, and problems grew worse in 2022. The Federal Reserve started adopting strong measures to reduce demand in March 2022, including boosting short-term interest rates. Hanlon points out that while the endeavor aimed to reduce demand-side spending, the Fed had little control over the supply side. The supply chain condition improved over time and lessened its negative effects on the world economy. By the end of 2022, this was apparent in larger commodities markets. For instance, there were severe shortages of building supplies in the spring of 2021, which made it difficult to build new homes and complete remodeling tasks for current homeowners. As a result, the cost of lumber and other components increased significantly. Since then, the availability of several materials, particularly lumber, has significantly improved, according to surveys of construction trades contractors. Prices decreased as supply became better. In the energy industry, similar patterns were observed. In March 2022, the price of a barrel of crude oil reached its peak. Americans had to pay significantly more for gas for a few months than they had in the previous 2 years. To increase supplies, President Biden did release some of the country's strategic petroleum reserve, but when demand decreases and concerns about a Russian supply shortage dissipated, prices also decreased. Late in June 2023, oil prices were under $70 per barrel, down 44% from their peak. Oil prices did, however, bounce back and reached an all-time high in August. Oil supply was impacted by several things in midsummer 2023, which helped lift prices a little. This covers the ongoing effects of Russia's diminished contribution to Europe's energy supply, as well as OPEC's decision to limit production to raise prices. Given the economy's current modest growth, Hanlon finds it surprising that energy demand has not resulted in increased prices. The so-called chip shortage, which refers to a dearth of semiconductor chips for various uses, was another well-known example of supply chain problems. Chips are becoming more prevalent in a wide range of products. Orders for chips were backlogged beginning in late 2020, which delayed the completion of many devices. The automobile industry has been most significantly impacted. Today's automotive manufacture depends heavily on semiconductor components, according to Hanlon. With production slowed down by a shortage of chips, vehicle supply fell and prices rose. Another important factor in the quick rise in the total inflation rate was higher prices for both new and used autos. Since then, the chip shortage has subsided. The majority of semiconductors are produced by companies in Taiwan and South Korea. President Biden signed the Chips and Science Act into law in the summer of 2022, encouraging the development of local semiconductor manufacturing facilities. It includes a $52 billion pledge to aid in the growth of the indigenous semiconductor industry. According to Rahoworth, Senior Investment Strategy Director at U.S. Bank Wealth Management, new factories are under construction in the U.S., but it will probably be 3 to 4 years before they are up and running. Although it is not a quick answer for problems with chip supply, it might offer more long-term supply chain security in the semiconductor business. Because there aren't enough employees to fill open positions in America, some problems might continue. The main problem hurting the supply chain, according to Haworth, may be labor shortages, even though supplies and transportation hubs appear to be keeping up these days. According to recent employment statistics, there are 1.7 unfilled vacancies for every available worker, showing that more workers are required to fill open positions. In today's atmosphere, job openings are still plentiful, and unemployment is still hovering around historic lows. According to Hanlon, the main issue facing many businesses is whether they can find and keep enough qualified workers to meet their production needs. There are occasionally new problems. A recent situation is a ban on shipping via the Panama Canal. Due to a prolonged dry season that made it difficult to boost water levels in the canal has been unable to handle normal shipping operations. Ship traffic has backed up as a result. 40% of container ships traveling from Asia to the east coast of the United States are thought to pass through the canal. A traffic jam could lead to momentary supply chain problems. All these have led to a supply chain crisis in the U.S. and made several of your favorite goods vanish from the shelves. That's it, guys. What do you think of this supply chain crisis? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and for more videos, subscribe to this channel. See you in the next video.